Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Jamie. I'm going to address that question that a lot of people are having. Is it still worth it to go to law school? And I would have to say that it is really not for most people. Um, the economic prospects are just really bad. The average person coming out of most law schools is going to struggle to make those payments back from law school debt. And if you end up not wanting to practice law, a JD can be a scarlet letter or letters. Because people with JDs tend to be viewed differently for other jobs. If you didn't already practice law in some facet, they think that you're defective or just not experienced enough. If you are looking for a different type of job, they might think, oh, he's a flake. It's really hard to uh, start just going to something new with a JD, and it really puts you out for a lot more things than it helps you for in the general business world. Um, it's not a jack of all trades thing. It is a, good thing if you're going to be doing something very legally oriented, like political work or something where you're going to have to use those skills, maybe not for profit or something. But average law student is just it's just not gonna cut it. Um, and most people are really not going to be geared toward doing law school or legal practice, even though they think they might. You know, lawyers tend to have one of the lowest job satisfaction ratings among professions. Um, it's just something that is or can be um, very minutia oriented, very political, just very denigrating overall. What goes on and the issues you have to deal with for people. So, with that being said, there are going to be people who still want to go to law school for whatever reason. Maybe you really do need to do something that you need, to be practicing lawyer to do. Um, Maybe you're just bent on it. Some people, being a lawyer is just all they can do because they really are that much of a douchebag. Um, you know, there are plenty of attorneys, out there who are very social, polite, and courteous, and you'll find those are the ones who didn't go to the best schools or weren't at the top of their class. Um, and that's just natural because if you're more social and sociable, you tend to not like studying alone and doing all the things that you need to do really well in law school. If you're more of an outgoer and go-getter, that doesn't really flex too well with um, law school academic work or most people's average starting out experience unless you're going solo. So, if you're still going to have to go for whatever reason, you really have to go where you're going to go for free. Uh, and if your LSAT scores or GPA or whatever is not that high to where you can't find a place to take you for free that is accredited, then you probably shouldn't be going. Um, of course, if you come from a very rich family and money's not a thing, well, then what difference does it make? If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. But to the average person who can't afford it, would have to take loans, forget it. You're screwed. You're going to be in some very dire straits for the average person, and if you want to get out, it's going to be really hard because that JD is a scarlet letter for other types of work. You're either overqualified, or you're looked at as defective, or you're looked at as a flake. And this is a little bit of my own research and talking to other people and my own experiences, even just looking at all different types of jobs. I've done, looked at everything from legal to non-legal work, so gotten a feel for that. Um, but you have to let your pride down, and nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants to sit there and read, toplawschools.com or above the law or something like that, and they're like, ooh. I want to go piss around with, a bunch of internet trolls and, have a jerk off contest to who can go to the best school, who blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's all a bunch of bull crap. Yeah, at the end of the day, you know, the people who have jobs, that's what matters. You know what I mean? Like, you could have gone to a podunk law school, but you were the top of your class for your law school and you got a job and you're making good money. I know lots of people like that. Wow. They're making more money than the people at the top law schools coming out. You know what I mean? You got to put your pride back because at the end of the day, there's a lot more at stake than just, you know, comparing yourself to other people. Um, there's a lot more at stake as far as your finances go and as far as your long-term uh, job flexibility is concerned. So something you got to think about. You know, some people are going to have to put their pride down. You know, I kind of got on the barely the last lick of it where there's a little bit of flexibility, but there really isn't right now. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be in some deep crap for a long time. There was before, but just now it's just blanket gone. And I feel bad for anybody that's coming out of any law school, you know, 100, 150 in debt. If you can't get that thing refinanced in a year after making payments to something, you know, 3%, 4%, I mean, you're in some deep crap. So I know this is sad news for a lot of people who are hopeful and dreaming and wishing, like, oh, I just want to go, you know, well, people love me, or I'll be legitimate, you know, I'll be so pimp. I mean, yeah, you're pimp. You got to put a JD next to your name. You pass the bar, you have to have Esquire. Yeah, people look at you good. It's kind of like showing magic. Ooh, you know, the village people think you're smart, whatever. But at the end of the day, if you're sitting there and hating your life every day because all you could get was a job at some, you know, big firm where you sit there for 70, 80 hours a week, pushing papers, not even in court. I mean, for me, I can't even handle that. You know, my specialty is criminal defense. And I like that because I like the social aspect. I like being out. I like the action. I mean, I could not be a pencil pusher. I'd, you know, blow my brains out. But, you know, even people who are detail oriented and introverted, like, there comes a breaking point, and you don't want to have to be the one sitting there and making that choice that you have to reach near that breaking point or at that breaking point or beyond that breaking point because of the freaking financial mess you got yourself into. And it's all a big freaking, I mean, the whole legal system is just warped on its own. That's its own thing, you know, with how it works. I mean, the reason law is so expensive is because it's very much a pay-to-play system. And that's why, you know, most of my colleagues when I went to law school had very nice cars, you know. But just don't do that to yourself. You know, you're really gonna hate yourself. The average person is just not geared for law school, and even the people who are applying to law school, like, unless you really are a person who enjoys, like, having that little bit of a douchebag tint and doesn't mind spending hours and hours doing research and writing legal memos, and, you know, it really takes a special person to be the traditional attorney role right when you get out of school. And that's the point. I mean, of course, you know, there are enjoyable parts of practicing law, but there's a difference between I just graduated and I've been practicing for a couple of years, now I get to do what I want. And the getting to do what you want thing, that's shrunk. You know what I mean? That's a part of the package. The stuff that's out there for, you know, recent grads, it ain't pretty. Doesn't matter where you go. You know, I know people from IB down to, you know, tier 4s, and I hear the same old stories. You know, I'm somewhere in between there. But I just hope that whoever is watching this, that you can sit back, take a deep breath, and say, I don't have to have a JD to be special. I don't need this to be legitimized in my life. I can put my pride down and say, oh my gosh, like, I cannot do what I cannot afford. And again, if you can get, if you're whatever middle class and you get full ride scholarships to some halfway decent accredited law school, go for it. You know what I mean? If it's free, the only thing you'll have to lose, as I said, is that, you might get a little blacklisting, a little scarlet letter because the JDs are going to overqualify you. You might want to get some work experience, might want to get a master's degree or a joint degree at least, just so that you have something at the top of the resume that doesn't say JD. Because it's kicker. It's more of a kicker than people realize. Having that JD can push you into a box that you may not want to be stuck in. For me, there's the aspect of things that I want to do is, promoting liberty and not-for-profit work that I have my interest in. I need that legal background. I need to do it, to be able to speak on it, to be able to help people with it. But it's still, it ain't pretty. I got in that last lick, and I had some help, scholarship help. So just really take that to heart. I really couldn't emphasize it more. I know I feel like I'm belaboring the point, but I mean, I talk to people on the phone who are applying to law school, personally saying, you have these 3 options that you got into so far, but you might have to take your pride down and say, I'm going to go to this little bit lower ranked school because they gave me a full ride. Because it ain't going to be pretty when you graduate. And it doesn't matter that all of our tyrannical presidents and congressmen and women have been making more and more laws every day that you really, I don't even know how people live without having a lawyer for everything, because people live breaking the law in almost everything they do. It's really true. Like, you can't, if you know what I mean? If you step outside your house and walk around the block, you're probably going to break a law at some point. You'll get jaywalking or something. You have to say de facto, but even with all that level of legal restriction and growth of government, there still isn't enough to change the economy for lawyers. There's just too many law schools, too many lawyers, too many unemployed lawyers, too many people who need jobs still. So, take care, everyone. If you have any questions, more specifically, I'll answer them. And I'll talk to y'all soon. Good luck.